Good evening and welcome to a live edition of Making the Case. I'm coming to you live this evening and I'm hoping to take a lot of phone calls tonight. So those of you who are watching, who are listening, stand by. I want to hear from you tonight. Last week, I had a pre-recorded program because I had to leave on that same day for Essequibo. But I'm here with you in person this evening. And I'm in full campaign mode. I just came from a meeting at Kitty, Owen, and McDougall Street. And we had a very, very big meeting there tonight, very successful meeting. And, it's the same pattern. You're seeing what's happening with our crowds. You're seeing what's happening with our meetings. We don't have to have entertainment. We don't have to fet anybody. People are coming out because they're genuinely concerned about the state of our country, and they're genuinely concerned about our upcoming general and regional elections. People know it's time for us to see the backs of APNU and AFC, and it's time to put back the PPPC in office. So we encourage you. I want to say thank you to our supporters who have always stood with us, who have always stood by us, even in opposition. We have some loyal supporters in the People's Progressive Party, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart for their support over the years. But we don't want to keep it only in the family. We want to ensure that, or we want to ask of you, that you go out there, you speak to your neighbors, anybody that you come in contact with, speak to them. APNU supporter, AFC supporter, you go out there and you spread the message of the People's Progressive Party Civic, because it is a message for all Guyanese. It's an inclusive message. And they must know, especially our young people, they must know that there is a party out there that will govern for them, that there's a party out there that can fix this broken system that has been destroyed by the coalition government. They must not become frustrated. Many of them put their trust in the APNU and the AFC in 2015, and they were disappointed. They were very, very disappointed with the failed promises of the coalition government. But they must not grow frustrated with the system. They must know that a party exists out there, the People's Progressive Party, and we must welcome them. We must welcome all to our party. And so I encourage you who are watching, who are listening at home, to become activists, to become our foot soldiers, and to spread the news, because we actually have something to tell people. APNU and AFC have nothing to tell their supporters, have nothing to present to the people of this country. They have failed on their 2015 promises. Imagine their 2015 slogan was a good life for all. And now in 2020, almost 5 years later, they're still using that slogan, a good life for all, because they still have not delivered this good life that they promised. And now we have new slogans, decency and integrity. But we know about the corruption. We know about the incompetence. The most recent one is with the Global Witness report on the ExxonMobil deal. And if I could just read to you from, this is just the first page. I'm on the first page and it says there, Trotman, responsible for signing Guyana's oil licenses, did not appear to spend his time in Texas negotiating. According to a memo summarizing his trip, the minister instead toured Exxon's new glass and steel offices. He and his colleagues were most impressed by the company's facilities for keeping Guyana's oil find samples. And, after reading that, you don't want to read the rest. But I read the report, and I encourage all of you to access it. It's on Facebook. You can download it and print it off. It's a very interesting story, but it's a sad story about how our national patrimony was sold out by this incompetent government. And then the hiding of the 18 million signing bonus, outright lies. And then to run under a banner of honesty and decency. I swear they don't know the meanings of those words. So the 18 million disappeared. In addition to that, they lied about it. Several ministers, including Trotman, denied it for almost an entire year and got Exxon to stay quiet about the 18 million bonus as well. It's all in here, and it's only until they were forced to admit it after a year that they had received the signing bonus that Exxon then declared that they made the payment to Trotman, that he signed as receiving it. But they don't want to tell you about these things, and they can't tell you about their track record because they don't have a track record. They can't present to you their 2015 manifesto and say, look, we said we would do these things and we have done this, and this is why we deserve a second chance. They can't do that. Because if they tell you about the corruption, if they tell you about the incompetence, if they tell you about the neglect, that's what they did in office for the last 5 years. And they should be, on the 2nd of March, removed so far from ever being close to power in this country again. We must permanently banish them to the opposite side of the National Assembly, permanently banish them to the opposition party, and let them actually work for a living. They have not been in office working. And Granger now, they have no 2020 manifesto, so every time he steps on a platform at a rally event, he's coming up with new promises. And it's all coming from ideas on our side. So now he's talking about ending squatting. When he and all of his ministers have been squatting in office for over a year. Keith Scott and Felix have been squatting for 5 years, collecting salaries illegally, salaries and benefits for 5 years as members of parliament when they never should have been there in the first place. And they have not developed a single new house lot in the 5 years that they've been there, but he's talking now about ending squatting. So this election is coming down to the issues, and you have to think about, when you're going to the polls on March 2nd, about which party you can trust, which party you can trust to deliver for you and your children and your future, which party you can trust to manage the resources of this country. We have seen what they've done to every sector: mining, forestry, bauxite, sugar, agriculture, everything, the health sector, the education sector, all failing. And now they're coming to tell you, give us a chance, when they've allowed our manufacturing sector to fall and to fail, putting thousands and thousands of people out of work. Now they're coming to say, give us a second chance. But based on what? They're supposed to come to you, make their case as to why you should re-elect them. But guess what? They never had any intentions of earning your vote. They never had any intention of earning your support. Their intention, which was revealed since 2017, for those of us who were paying attention, and I want to highlight it to you, in 2017, with the illegal appointment of Patterson as the GCOM chair, that was their intention. That was the first revelation of their intentions, which was to rig elections. And that's what they're good at. That's where they have the expertise in rigging elections. And so their intention was never, I promised these things in 2050, let me deliver on my promises so that when the next election comes around in 2020, that I can go back and say, this is my track record. Present your track record to the people of this nation. But they can't do that. So in 2017, they started to implement the machinery that would deliver the elections for them come 2020. And that's why the no confidence motion was such a shock to them, because they hadn't gotten the chance to put the mechanism in place, the machinery in place. So when David Granger broke 25 years of practice, 25 years of tradition, of consultation between a president and a leader of the opposition, and the president selects a name from a list provided by the leader of the opposition to be the chairman for GCOM. When David Granger stepped away from that, broke that, and illegally and unilaterally appointed his man, the man that would do his bidding, would take his instructions. When he did that, shamelessly, violating our Constitution, the first violation, that his intention was then revealed. And then he got him to illegally start the house-to-house registration. Then when the no confidence motion was passed, again he breached the Constitution, refusing to call elections within the 3 months time frame, going to the Caribbean Court of Justice, and then defying the ruling of the Caribbean Court of Justice, robbing us, ordinary Guyanese, the opportunity to go to the polls, to select a government of our choice. That's what elections are about. Elections fought for, free and fair elections fought for by Dr. Chedi Jagan and fought for by the PPP. A fight that took place years ago that saw free and fair elections in this country for the first time in 1992. They're taking us right back there. They took us right back there, where we have to fight for free and fair elections again. This battle has been fought and won already. And now we have the same battle again. And so this is what people must realize. Apart from the incompetence, apart from the corruption, apart from them not having any will in government to serve the people, there is a bigger issue at stake here. And that is, there is a government in office who wants to hang on to power illegally and who wants to rob us and who has been robbing us for the past year of our right to go to the polls and elect a government of our choice. And then David Granger proudly gets on stage to rounding applause and talks about removing the no confidence provision from our Constitution. Can you imagine? Shamelessly talking about removing that provision, a check and balance provision against any government who has failed the people, who has failed to deliver for its people. That's the check and balance in the Constitution. And then, of course, there is our right to go to the polls every 5 years to elect our new government. But they want to rob us of that. They want to take away that right from us. But you know and I know that the People's Progressive Party Civic, the party that has fought for free and fair elections in this country, and the party that has been fighting over the past year, watching GCOM and fighting this new AFC administration, fighting them to ensure that we have free and fair elections. The only party, by the way, that has been bringing the fight, that has been watching the Secretariat and the Elections Commission to ensure that the integrity of our elections is preserved. We're the only party that has been committed to that process, and we have been fighting to ensure that every vote will count. When we fought for those 20,000 persons who they wanted to remove that didn't pick up their ID cards, we fought solely on the basis that removing those persons was illegal. We didn't know who those 20,000 persons were. We don't know whether they were PPP supporters or APNU supporters or AFC supporters or whichever party they supported. But they were Guyanese, and they had a right to be on the list, and they have a right to cast their vote. And we will defend any such citizen of our country. We will protect that right. We will preserve their right to elect a new government. So we didn't decide that we're going to support them because they're PPP supporters. We are on the side of right. We are always on the side of what is constitutional and what is legal. So I urge people that they must sit in their quiet moments and reflect on these things. You're not going and vote because Susan Rodrigues asked you to vote or the PPP asked you to vote. You are in a position, you are living in a time where you have access to information, a lot of access to information, and you're on social media, and you must be able to know the issues, become acquainted with the facts of the matter, and then reflect on your own life before 2015 and after 2015. Examine our track record and see what this government has done in office for 5 years, and you will be able to go to the polls with a free conscience and know that the only party that you can support to protect democracy in this country, to return democracy in this country, and to deliver for you and your family is the People's Progressive Party Civic, the only party with a plan, party that has released this manifesto, and we're going around house to house distributing this plan, going around the country holding meetings and rallies to talk about our plan, to talk about the path to prosperity. You know, David Granger, when he is asked the question, when the question is posed to him by any commentator, which is rarely, because he rarely gives interviews, but he was on Kaichor radio, and the interviewer asked him, very first question, why should the people of this country re-elect you? And he gave 3 reasons. The Sovereign Wealth Fund was the first reason he gave. He established the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Well, we found oil in 2015, and they did not pass the legislation establishing the Sovereign Wealth Fund until last year, 2019. 4 years later, in the period when they were illegal, the no confidence motion had already been passed. That's the period they chose to hurriedly pass the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And still we have no ring fencing provisions. They can't tell us how monies will flow to and from this fund. They can't tell us how our young people or anybody at all will benefit from employment or will benefit from oil monies. But he's boasting about passing this piece of legislation known as the Sovereign Wealth Fund. The second issue, he said, is that he named 4 new towns. Imagine that's something he's running on. He named 4 new towns. Naming 4 new towns doesn't put food on our table. It doesn't give us jobs. It doesn't ensure that we have medical supplies when we go to the hospitals or to health centers across this country. But he's talking about establishing 4 new towns. He doesn't talk anything about infrastructure or any of that. And the third reason he gave is local government elections. He is boasting about having 2 local government elections in this country. And the one in 2018, the last one that we had, we delivered a sound beating on the APNU AFC coalition combined. Over 100,000 votes, more than the 2 parties combined. And if you would remember, they went separately to those elections. And that is when we also recognized that the AFC was dead because they were barely able to garner some votes on their own. So they quickly cozied up back with APNU to contest the general and regional elections as a coalition, because that's the only way that they stood a chance in 2015. But of course, they stand no chance now because Guyana is turning red, and people are realizing that. And further evidence as to why David Granger should not boast about local government elections is because right here in Region 4, which is traditionally their stronghold, we increased our seats on the Mayor and City Council by 5. We had 2 councillors there, and that increased to 7. The PPP now has 7 councillors at the Mayor and City Council. Further evidence that people reject APNU, that people reject AFC. When he was talking about restoring local democracy at Anna Regina, He was speaking to people from a region that voted over 80% in 2018 for the PPP. Over 80%, he barely scraped a 20% in that region. And he is boasting shamelessly about local government elections. That's not anything to run on when you're contesting a general and regional elections. And so people have to recognize that David Granger and all of his ministers, they're vague, they have nothing of substance to offer the people of Guyana. They're running scared, they're helter-skelter, they don't know what to do. Now they're campaigning in the burial grounds. They're campaigning to dead people now. That's what they have to turn to garner some votes. But, dead people don't vote. And they're not going to be allowed to vote in this election because we have big eyes and we are watching. We are watching everything that's going on at the Guyana Elections Commission, and we will ensure that we have strong polling agents as well on March 2nd to protect our integrity, to protect the integrity of the ballot, of the vote, and of our elections. So like I said, we have to ensure that we speak to everyone, even though we are close. We have less than a month for March 2nd. Even though we are close, we cannot look at crowd sizes and say we've already won. We have not won until Dr. Irfan Ali raises his hand and is sworn in as the next president of this cooperative Republic of Guyana. Only then will the fight be over. Only then we can go to bed and sleep peacefully, knowing that democracy has been restored to our country. So until then, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep pushing. We have to encourage people to come out. Our supporters, as well as APNU supporters, AFC supporters, talk to them. Don't let anybody make them feel guilty into voting for any party that they don't want to vote for. This is not about Afro-Guyanese party or Indo-Guyanese party. This is an election that is about issues. This is an election about a party you can trust to secure your future and to secure the future of your children. Don't let anybody guilt you into voting for any party that you know cannot deliver for you. Do not waste your vote. And for those of you who can help others, advise others on how to vote, ensure that they put the X in the box next to the cup, and they have to vote at the top and they have to vote at the bottom, 2 places. Ensure that your ballot paper is stamped in your presence, that the numbers are clear on the ballot paper, and then you go and you cast your vote and you go home. Your job is done. That is what you were supposed to do. You go out early and you cast your vote and you go home. We don't need people with night shift. Don't listen to Valda Lawrence and them talking about put on your night shift clothes. That is for the policemen and women of our country, to ensure that everybody gets out of a polling station safely and to secure ballot boxes. We're not following ballot boxes because we have statements of poll at the end of the count. The count will happen at each polling station across this country. And at the end of it all the polling agents and the presiding officers will sign and verify that this is what is in that ballot box. And that is a legal document. That document has weight. That statement of poll has weight. And that right there in that document is the integrity of the election. So we don't need people to work no night shift. Night shift is for GCOM to start tabulating to get us the election results as soon as possible and to ensure that there is a peaceful transition of power, just like there was in 2015. Even though there were many irregularities, the PPP was a mature party. The PPP was a responsible party, and the PPP allowed the peaceful transition of power from Donna Ramatar to David Granger. And I want any reporter or journalist or anybody who is listening to me tonight, I would like you to ask David Granger whenever you get that opportunity. I would like the question to be posed to him that, sir, if the election, no, not if, when the election results are announced and you find out that you have lost, will you peacefully transfer power to the People's Progressive Party Civic? And I want him on record. I want to know his answer on record. And we must hold him to that answer. Will he peacefully see the transition of power in this country? He needs to be asked that question. And I would like somebody to ask him that question. And I hope somebody's listening tonight. Or if you know a reporter or a journalist out there, please ask them to ask David Granger that question. I would like to know the answer. And I would like to, there's much more to say, but I'd like to go to the phone lines now because I want to hear from you, our viewers at home. I didn't get a chance to take any calls last week because I wasn't here in person, but I want to hear from you tonight. Call me with your views and your thoughts, and let's talk. Let's debate. Tell me what's happening, and let's talk about elections. Caller, you're on the air. Good evening.
Yes, good night, Comrade.
Good night.
Comrade, I would like to know two questions. I'd like to know two answers from you. Is the parliament dissolved?
Yes.
Right, but I see these ministers, them is still driving around like if they don't care. They are using our taxpayers' money still with plenty bodyguards. Look, I was at Christmas church at the Anglican St. Matthew's on Christmas Day, and I saw David Granger's daughter have a personal bodyguard. Who is paying for that?
We're paying, you and me.
Yes, Comrade. Also, Comrade, you remember the WikiLeaks thing that they burst out, that one of the U.S. diplomat, they say that David Granger is a racist?
Yes.
So why nobody don't bring up those issues? Let's show the Guyanese people who we are dealing with is a sheep in wolf clothing.
A wolf in sheep clothing, yes.
Let me get it going, and then even send the sugar workers them and get land. We all know it's fake. Everything is fake.
Exactly.
And I maintained, as I would always say, there is no Barack Obama in America anymore, because I personally believe that he put them there to destroy us. And also, Comrade, the last thing, Comrade, where is the CARICOM Secretary General? He's not making any statement. He wait for the chairman come after they trample upon our Constitution. They trample upon our Constitution. He is saying nothing. My money build that Secretary General place. Really
the headquarters, yes.
My money bill it, your money bill it, and we still have to pay. Why are they saying things? Are they in bed with the AP and AFC government? That's the question I'm asking all the political parties that I go to, all the rallies that I go to. I'm asking Mansour, I ask everybody. I wanted to know, why are we still in CARICOM? Because Boris Johnson leave the EU because he wasn't getting nothing, and he's right. If we got that as a mantra, we will go with 38 seats or more. You believe me, Comrade. You have a good night.
I understand you. Thank you. Thanks for coming through. And this caller raised three different points apart from what I was saying. And we can go on and on with that, with examples of how bad this government has been and how dangerous this government is and the people in this administration. And that's what we need people to recognize. It's not just about, PPP this or APNU that or AFC this and that. We have a threat that is in government right now. This entire APNU AFC bunch is a threat to democracy, is no good in government, apart from their incompetence, apart from their lack of will to develop this country, apart from their lack of vision and ideas and all of that, which makes them a bad government. But apart from all of that, they are undermining democracy. And they are shamelessly doing it. Like the caller just said, bodyguards and traveling around as ministers and using our monies to campaign. They're also using taxpayers' money to campaign on in office right now, and using the buses that were bought with taxpayers' money to transport people all across the length and breadth of this country to attend their rallies. That's how shameless they are. That's how barefaced they are. They're poking us in the eye. And we cannot allow this to happen. So it's more than just going to the elections to elect the People's Progressive Party Civic. It is about ensuring that APNU and AFC never come anywhere near the reins of power in this country ever again. And that's the best thing that we can do for our country. That's the best thing that we can do for our children. That's the best thing that we can do for our future, is to keep this cabal as far away from power as possible. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Susanna.
Good evening.
Hi, just kind of hear me out a minute. I'm a Bornamite, right? And I support the coalition, right? But this is how I support it. How do kind of people see people like this ruin our country in their usurp authority, even in their career destination of being big ones, that being a Bornamite, I sure Bornham would not even side with this government, because none of them could have come out and give a speech properly to address the nation and issues.
Yes.
Like how every time I turn my TV, I always see the opposition. And he's the person that will show me some light that there's somebody fighting for the Guyanese people of this land. Right? Because in the days, this government needs to go back to the history. And this country could only run on coalitions. This coalition that's running here is not a coalition. The real coalition is the PPC, from what I'm seeing. And that was what was happening with Teddy and Bonham since the days. I remember times when Teddy left his wife just to go to Bonham and attend functions. And this is what, if Guyanese people don't wake up, they would not see the truth. I remember Bonham was trying to get Afro-Guyanese to listen to him because he was a well-spoken man, he was very bright. And these people listened to him, and he realized that these people, the only way to get him to listen is play music and jump up and sing, and this is how we get him to come to his rallies. And it's still happening up to now. If Afro-Guyanese don't wake up and realize that to win and to be respected in this land through education, they will always live in this slow fire, go fire kind of attitude. That's my contribution.
Yeah, caller, and you make a valid point, because even Burnham held elections when they were due. Burnham had no problem going to elections, even he rigged the elections, but at least he had the decency to call the elections. At least nobody could have come and point the finger at Burnham's face and say, but you violate the Constitution, because he was smarter than that. He wasn't going to embarrass himself the way David Granger and his ministers are embarrassing themselves in office. And they are not seeing that the longer they remain in power illegally, unconstitutionally, that with that act, that single act of violation alone has lost them a good chunk of their support. All of their upper middle class friends or supporters, educated supporters, cannot in good conscience go to the polls and vote for them again in 2020, because they offended their own supporters. They offended Guyanese. They offended educated Guyanese, people who are aware of the issues, informed Guyanese. They offended all of us just by that act, just by violating our Constitution. And besides that, they've just been bad in office. They've done nothing for this country. They took a country that was on a path, that was on its way to development. It was a developing country. We're a growing economy, reporting growth every year consecutively. And we left monies there. All they had to do was get to work. They could have just worked with what the PPP had there already, and they would have been like star boys and star girls today. And even that they couldn't do. Even the $10,000 cash grant, they couldn't continue giving the children. What was so hard to decide, okay, this was a good policy, let's keep this. They didn't even want to keep that. Replace it with 5Bs. Bus, boat, bicycle, boots, and breakfast. How many of our children are benefiting from those 5Bs? That is a discriminatory policy that they've put in place to replace a policy, to replace a program that was there under the PPP that benefited every single child. APNU supporter, AFC supporter, PPP supporter, Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, Amerindian Guyanese, Portuguese Guyanese, everybody. That is how we believe government should run. That is our ideology. That is our philosophy. That we should govern for all Guyanese, that we must be inclusive. We are a nation of many different people, mixed race included, and we have to we have to govern for the benefit of every single Guyanese. Caller, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Good evening.
Hi.
So much thing I want to say and discuss.
Uh-huh.
I might.
I know how you feel.
Yes.
I know the feeling. We could talk here
Yeah.
all week.
Especially the 8-year share rate flower.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to that. Something you have to reflect the past. You have to reflect the past to prove the point.
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Yes.
But tonight I saw 67 crazy keeping the meeting of Lenora there. You can see the sadness of these people's faces so brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
This man is talking about a vision, he's talking about a dream, a plan, a goal. He's telling the people what he will do or what he act like they would do.
Mm-hmm.
No promise. These people are real brainwashed, my dear.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm?
And we gotta save them. Because there's some of us out there who don't even know what's good for us.
Yes, I'm telling you, I'm watching all these people and program, no vision, no plan.
Mm-hmm.
No vision, no plan. What message, what dreams or plan you're going to do for the people? You're going to promise them a whole billion, a promise again, and you can't fulfill them? Let me tell you something. PPP is a fight that you're supposed to start its own party, and you say no party come and pack up. You guys, I'm telling you, I really feel sad. No small party coming and pack up you guys.
Yeah.
The only body is this Mansour Nadir.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah.
In 1964, when I had an 8-day strike, you know what they did? You know what they do to those people in London, especially females?
Mm-hmm.
Rape the girls, them, put sand in the park and pepper and ask them, you ain't dead yet, you ain't dying yet. They had a boat named Aritzcar, a passenger boat from Linden to Charleston, shaped blood bath. You understand? These people, them, they are violent.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those things. I was in 9 or 10 years of age, Susan.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's in our history books. Anybody who wants to find out, it's written in history.
Yes,
They can find out. They don't have to take our word for it.
You understand? I remember these things good.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? These people do not have a wish they can't get my vote anymore. All of us are glad for change yet. But we get so much change we can't take it off.
Get it changed. That's what they bargain for.
You understand? We get change till we can't take it off, my dear.
Yeah.
Anyhow, try to continue your program. We like your program. Y'all don't stop with these programs. Them don't stop with the program. People have things in their mind to say.
Yes, I know.
And the whole Guyana, so the whole Guyanese. No, I love my country, I love all my people. I'm not a racialist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a racialist. You understand? But these people, them, if you see in their face,
Mm-hmm.
you understand? They only blah, 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 blah. But
And that's
deep down
coming
in the
from,
heart,
it's coming from the leadership.
yeah.
It's coming from their
It's
leadership.
in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you try to continue your program,
Thank
to
you.
do the right thing. Even though who have a conscience, they're going to do about it. What? Let me tell you something. Those mothers are glad for the $10,000 for those children.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, and I'm glad for I get a more rate on the NIS, on on my
Listen, we
on the
will be
pension.
doubling pension for
Yes,
pensioners
exactly
within
that.
the 5 years, and we will double that $10,000 cash grant every year until we get to
Right, for the
$50,000.
children, them, the mothers that would
That is a
glad
commitment that we will
these
keep.
are not AFC followers or that supporting nobody's body.
Mhm.
They may know about this, they may hear what the PPP promise. I tell you what those people promise to fulfill it. I'm telling you this from all my heart, 100%. All right, take care and God bless.
All right, thank you for your
Yeah,
contribution.
bye.
Let's see who else is on the line. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Susan, good night.
Hi, good night.
Girl, I gonna miss you when you win and you're gone in the parliament. When you go to parliament, I want you set up a camera, right? And you gonna be the chief whip, right? You do this for me when you go in parliament, right? And you know, these people talking about Mr. Burnham. But you know why we suffered 28 years on Mr. Burnham? So that these oil people couldn't get the oil for what they get it for, except for 51 or 51.50, right? But like we can give the oil people the oil still and still starve. Yeah, so Mr. Burnham did give them the oil and we starve, and like we can give them the oil now and still starve, right? And these small parties, where were they when we were fighting for the election to be called? What happened to Mr. Roger? Well, them is the guys that should form small parties that was protest in front of the president's office, remember?
Yes, yes.
And when the guys have parked the vehicle, that agriculture police come and move all the vehicles. Those are the guys that they should form parties, not these free riders. They
Well,
never
well,
want
they
election.
see the benefits that a free rider could get. They
Yeah,
see
they
what a
never-
Keith Scott and a Felix could get just by having a seat in Parliament. So that's the objective now.
No,
Just
but
try
like,
to
it-
get
it-
5,000 votes to get into the Parliament to enjoy the salary and the perks. They don't want to work for it.
No, well, these small parties is equivalent to that. Anyway, I want to do a little comparison to you here, right? With tangible promises and intangible promises, right? All right. The good life and the decade of development that they are promising are based on what you call theoretical propaganda. So when the time has expired for them to be examined in relation to seeing if it has been accomplished, there is no physical or competent evidence to substantiate it has happened. All right? So that's what you call intangible promises. What you're campaigning on, this good life and decade of development, you cannot prove those things. Right? So I'm going to show you now. Like tangible promises, like what the PPP would have, is like promises that are physical in nature. For example, building of roads, bridges, hospitals. These are tangibles and palpables promises. And these promises could be seen at the end of a election period, a governance for 5 years. So when they're campaigning on good life and decade of development, you cannot prove that. You call it impalpable and intangible. They're nothing.
Man, you're making it sound fancy.
Yes.
You're
yes,
making it
I
sound
understand.
really, but really it's just empty promises.
No, it's something that you can't prove. When the 5 years done, the 10 years done, there's nothing to be proved. It's not a
Right,
physical-
right. Okay.
Right? And I got one more thing here, right? Global witness.
Mm-hmm.
If global witness is made up of a pack of jokers, right? Why is not Mr. Greenwich not laughing? Right? And if the report is fraudulent, then he must provide tangible and explicit evidence that will negate its authenticity. Right?
Yes.
Good. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks for coming through.
All right.
Caller, good evening. Hello? I think we lost that caller there. So the caller is, he's explaining to our viewers when David Graduate gets on a platform and talks about a decade of development and then doesn't offer us any details of that plan, there's nothing that we can hold him to. to say that, you said you would do this and that, A, B, C. There's nothing for us to hold him to. He's getting on stage and telling people about, you can see the development in your lives, and we're wondering, where is this development? And where is this good life? Can you point to something? Can you point to one thing, David Granger, that you have done, a tangible thing that we can look at and say, yes, you know what? You did that. He can't. That's what the caller was alluding to just now. Caller, good evening.
Good evening, Susan. Susan,
Yes, sir.
the people is do very good. Starve the whole nation. Fool the whole nation. Right?
Uh-huh.
Very good then do. I even get a chance, I get back a chance, I even hold on a lot of people do. I even get the color in your hand and I go get it back.
Mm-hmm.
If I do stupidness, the color will come out of your hand.
Absolutely.
When
And the electors have a right
to
to put any government out. Mm-hmm.
Must reach you. And I go get to go in and this is an Regam. I in Regam, them who suppose no go white mouth. Rice flour go for me back planting chip for 3 hours. Right? And I go eating coconut and rice, either with saltfish or just so. And as you eat saltfish, you gotta drink enough water. So you don't go hungry back.
All right, so make sure you come out on the 2nd of March and cast your vote, all right?
Don't coconut to keep them going now, you gotta start cook up rice.
Mm-hmm.
So bale cook up rice. Enjoy your night.
All right, thank you. You too.
Okay.
Caller, good evening.
Hello, good night.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Okay, you go today.
Speak up a little bit for me. I could hardly hear you.
Oh, how are you? The people put up afternoon club in front of my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I take the after the day, I went to the car police around there.
What happened? The police lock you for what?
Huh?
Speak up a little bit. I'm having trouble hearing.
I went, the one that club in my house.
Uh-huh.
And I tell them, what's the way to get an army?
Uh-huh.
So they put up the flag, and the next thing you know, the man, he started forcing me up.
Uh-huh.
So I give up, he called me, he got back.
Uh-huh.
And next thing you know, I said, who did come? And it came into the talking police station. And next thing you know, I was a no doctor. The next thing when they said I got moved. I went to court, my name was never called.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what will become of this now.
But why you want to only people flag?
You know, I flag it and they can't put up the flag.
No, they have a right to campaign. Any political party has a right to campaign. Don't worry the flag, man. You know you're going to vote for the cop. You don't worry with them on the flag. Let them put up the flag. Right? Don't get yourself involved in those things. Don't let it bait you. We don't want any... If you're going to lock up, you can't vote. So you got to make sure you're out of the lockup, right?
I know.
Let them put up the flag, man. They have a right to do that.
But thing is that they put me in the lockup for no reason. I did not wrong. I was just joking with one.
All right.
And they were just kidding with it.
All right, caller. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, caller.
Hey, good night, Susan.
Hi.
I'm excited to go. In Diamond Ocean scheme, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow the government had a big rally in Diamond Ocean scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And since this morning, the painting and the clean up the old area will never do in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
The road get yellow marks on the road and you see street lights all over.
Mm-hmm.
When we get flood in Diamond, I got the government and call them tell me you have the area flood out 3 years up around the area, they said not the NDC. And tomorrow the president and the old troop Felix come in Diamond to skip tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people, the flags in front, the tarmac, they take it off tonight.
Mm-hmm.
They take it off.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow now we have big celebration in Diamond scheme by this government.
Mm-hmm.
Big rally.
Well, they think flags gonna win elections too. So,
Yeah.
but you know, we got a remedy for that.
They never put the street lights, they never pay new road, they do the road. But today, 24 hours work they got going on in here right now. So you never prepare for the Jamal come up tomorrow to motor dance in that one. Thank you very much.
All right, caller, thank you. Hello, caller, good evening.
Good evening. How are you this evening?
I am good, thanks.
I'm good. Yes, nice to hear you, good. I would like to make a contribution
Sure.
towards your program.
Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
I would like all the guys and people who are listening to this program should understand one thing. Right? Way back in 2015, the APNU government has made a lot of promises.
Mm-hmm.
And up to this date, they haven't. Me or the rest of our guys call it empty promises.
Right.
Now, and how can you live with an empty promises? Empty promises, you can live, it's just like living on an empty stomach.
Mm-hmm.
How can you survive on an empty stomach?
Mm-hmm.
I hope the rest of the population again is understand that.
Right.
Empty promises
Mm-hmm.
means empty stomach.
I got
Do
you.
you agree with me?
Okay, I'm with you.
You're with me?
I'm with you.
I'm so proud that you're with me. And there's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want that the young population in this country. I heard that one brother was speaking about the history of Guyana
Mm-hmm.
under from Bornham Contact to. I hope that each and every parent should educate the young one who is now going to vote, who is voting for the first time, knows what the parents have been, what they passed through.
Mm-hmm.
Not lining up for certain things and
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
and hope that history doesn't repeat itself again in Guyana. Because I'm speaking on behalf of a father and a grandfather.
Understood.
And I don't want to see my children nor my grandchildren to go through that. What me and the others go through, all the folks like me go
Right,
through
right.
in our period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And as every parent, we want to see the best for their children.
Okay.
And the only way to do this is one way. On the 2nd of March, is to make our mark on the right place.
That's right. Okay,
Are you
caller.
with me?
I'm with you. Thank you very much for your contribution.
And one more thing, I
Okay.
would congratulate you
Uh-huh.
on the good work that you're doing.
I appreciate that.
Please continue that. And I wish if you could bring more young people like you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
All right.
To do that very good work that you're doing. I admire you for that.
Thank you,
Thank
caller.
you very much.
Thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Let's see who else we have on the line. Caller, good evening.
Susan, I got one question to ask you. You believe that this will rig this election?
Well, like I explained in my opening comments, they've tried many things already.
Yeah, but I can't trust with the ABC, you know.
No, why you say that?
Me not trust them the last
No.
time I didn't do.
No. Look, the leader of the opposition has had many meetings with the ABC countries, with the international observers, especially with the Americans. And they have unequivocally assured us that their interest is only in ensuring that we have free and fair elections in this country. But remember, we can't ask the international community to fight our battle for us. We can ask them to oversee, but we have to ensure that we turn out in our numbers.
Yeah.
Even if they try to steal a few, We have to win by a landslide to
Yes.
guarantee a PPP victory.
What they should do, I will get, if I get enough observer over each polling station, the outside observer there.
Mm-hmm.
They back them now move, get the tally right here and send them into G4.
Right.
Because if the vaccines can share we have Bobby's River,
Right. So that's the.
okay, we have Supana River.
That is why the statement of poll is so important.
I can fly with helicopter and look up in the ocean.
Yes, I know. The history is bitter.
I should show what I'm replacement range up in me what you do.
I know. All of what you're saying, I know, is what actually took place in the past. So.
And
Yes.
then I have a track man when they bought no jar, some last strip, I left the show. Are you fighting?
So we gotta come out. Our supporters have to come out and vote.
Come over, I show them, let them support
And
them,
not
let
be
them
intimidated, because you're gonna try to use all kinds of things to intimidate people from not going and voting and all of these things. We have to stand our ground. We have to stand strong.
I may not believe them one time I get them police voted. I think because I'm not police.
No, they're not. I look at what happened at the last LG. They on the day that the discipline services voted, I had a list. I sat there in a polling station. I had a list of over 100 names, and 20 police officers came and voted. 20 from a list of 100, over 100 or something. So even if they don't support PPP, they're not going to go support this government. They're going to abstain from voting. But we want to encourage them to move past race and all of these things. You have to vote on issues. Yeah. All right, caller. Thank you for coming through. We just have time to take one more call. Good evening.
Hello, good night.
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, caller.
Long the time they have a meeting already and you keep meeting and you tell the people them why you want cut tape all the time. I don't want one scientists and engineers.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody turns scientist and engineer in this country, who will be one liar like a he? Or who will be president or who will be minister of this country?
Mm-hmm.
He wants everybody to turn engineer and scientist.
So when he put the 7,000 sugar workers out of jobs, why he didn't find them another job?
No, he said about turn scientist.
Oh, he could turn them scientists. Okay.
Yeah, he asked him if I don't want to turn scientist.
Well, Granger can't turn he prime minister up to now, so I don't know who he can turn what.
Yeah, the guy, he just like on case got he's stupid. Because he only there talk nonsense all over the place, but nobody now ask him the right question. And them now go on TV and got a program that you can call him and ask them questions.
No, they can't answer questions.
No, he can't answer questions. Yeah, they were perfect done. So them can't run this country. Now he will tell the people that he will give them the $10,000 grant when he got them 5 years from them.
No, he say how much? He say how
Oh,
much?
yeah,
Say if
he
he give me
give-
$500,
Yeah.
promise delivered, $500.
Yeah, he will tell them how much you give them.
And it coming from oil money. And we
Yeah.
don't know we already got a $10 billion bill that we got paid the oil company before we even start for collect a cent. But he promising cash grant.
What about this time here is that, you know, they had a big party at the Lenora ground there.
Yes.
Well, that is a farewell, they keep it in coming out. You know when you go for a country, you just keep farewell?
Yes, yes.
Well, them keep farewell to come out of power. And all of them are going
Right.
at this big music and boom back and shit to copyright and $5,000 is a party them got. You don't know rally or meeting because he not tell nobody what you got to do when you win back this election for them.
Right.
You know, he not tell nobody that.
He bringing nothing to the table.
Yeah, he ain't got nothing to say. What you got there?
All right.
Politician.
Okay, caller. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, the call is right. Maybe they're having their farewell. You know, when they spent $24 million, they spent $24 million in fireworks. When we were celebrating First Oil and all of that, that's probably, as the caller said, their farewell. Printed invitations on glass and all of that, incurring further expense that the Guyanese people have to pay. And we went, and the Guyanese went and watched these fireworks and so on. They were in awe and celebrating forest oil. And they don't know, little do they know, or little do they care to know, that there is nothing for us to celebrate, that the deal is bad. It's bad, and many people, including Trotman, should go to jail for selling out this country, for selling out the people of this country with such a bad deal. He went there to enjoy himself. He didn't go there to negotiate on behalf of the people of this country. He didn't go there to negotiate to secure our future and our children's future and the future of this country. And that we must not forget. And especially young people must not forget the promises that David Granger made when he was campaigning in 2015, that he would find jobs for university graduates within 1 year. And then he denied that he ever said so, even though he's on record. These things we must not forget. And we must be cognizant of them when we go to place our X next to the cup on March 2nd, 2020. And I pray that we will get there, that our supporters will stand their ground, will not be intimidated, and will come out and vote, not just for the PPPC, vote for yourselves, vote for your children, vote for your future, vote for those Amerindians who are in the far regions of our country, who are neglected, who are suffering. We have to govern for all of them. So when you're voting, remember, that's the weight of your vote. Remember that you're voting also to preserve and protect our democracy, because you will want to go to the polls again in 2025. And the People's Progressive Party will ensure that you get a chance to go to the polls in 2025 to elect a government again. And I'm certain that you will be re-electing the People's Progressive Party then again in 2025, because we will ensure that democracy is protected in this country. But if we allow them to steal this election, you know the saying, cat eat with dinner. So I'm urging everybody out there, take this election seriously. This is not an election to be taken lightly. So with that, I want to say a pleasant good evening and an enjoyable rest of the week. Please stay safe, hang in there. We're almost there. The countdown is on, and I look forward to celebrating in the streets. I look forward to dancing in the streets with all of you after the 2nd of March. Have a good night.